Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, July 5th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in 59 days. The game against Michigan in 143 days. Hope you guys all had a wonderful 4th of July and a nice long holiday weekend. I know a lot of people may still be out for the rest of the week, taking a long holiday week. But for those of us headed back to the office today, wanted to give you guys just kind of an update on where things stand. I expect that a lot of people were probably not glued to their computers or phones over that long holiday weekend, and there has been a bunch of news in the recruiting world, so we're just going to give you a little bit of an update on all the stuff that happened, and also the stuff that is still to come later on this month and moving into the month of August, because again, there is a lot. Okay, number one, Justin Scott, 5-star defensive tackle out of Chicago. He is a Buckeye, number 14 overall player in the class of 2024 in the 247 composite. He committed to the Buckeyes over the weekend. Huge win for Larry Johnson. He is just that one of those guys who has a combination of size and speed that it is just not very easy to find. Ohio State got a big one-tech defensive tackle last year in Cade McDonald out of the South. This time it is Justin Scott out of Chicago. So that is a very big recruiting win for Ohio State at a spot where it is not easy to find guys, and they needed someone on the interior of that defensive line. So that kind of checks one of those boxes for Ohio State in this 2024 class, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They did get some bad news on the defensive side of the ball on Monday when Marquis Lightfoot, a 6'5", 220-pound edge rusher out of Chicago, number 67 overall in the composite, he committed to Miami over Ohio State. Ohio State was kind of viewed as the favorite for a long time. The Hurricanes swooped in at the last moment and stole his commitment away. Obviously a long way to go till the early signing day in December. But Ohio State will have to end up bringing in another edge rusher or two this class, maybe 3 after only taking 1 last year with Joshua Mickens. So that was a little piece of not so good news for Ohio State over that holiday weekend. Now the Buckeyes are anticipating perhaps some more good news coming later this week. 4-star cornerback Miles Lockhart out of Arizona. He is set to announce on Thursday this week where he's going to be playing his college ball. Ohio State considered the favorite to land his commitment. He would give them 2 really good corners in this class to pair with Bryce West, who committed out of Glenville last month. That would be a very good start to that cornerback recruiting class. We'll get to the third potential member of that class a little later on in the show. He'll be announcing at the end of the month. But Miles Lockhart, he's going to be announcing on Thursday. If he does commit to Ohio State, as is sort of expected right now, that would be a very big boom for Ohio State. Now, one more defensive player who we have to add to our list of guys to watch this month, Kingston Villa Mua. He's a linebacker out of California. He's someone he was the first offer from Ohio State in the class of 2024. He could be one of the next commitments to Ohio State in the class of 2024. He has announced that he is set to announce his commitment on July 23rd. When that happens, if he does come through and commit to Ohio State, that would give the Buckeyes 3 linebackers, a really solid linebacker class potentially there, paired with Garrett Stover and Peyton Pierce. Ohio, Texas, and California potentially there. So Ohio State considered, again, probably the favorite, the leader right now for Kingston Villa Mua, but that announcement will come on July 23rd. And then to wrap up the month of July, cornerback Aaron Scott out of Springfield, Ohio, that has been an Ohio State-Michigan battle. Oregon is in the top 3, but it feels like it really is going to come down to the Buckeyes and the Wolverines. When he announces on July 30th, the significance of that date, it is his father's birthday. His father is a big Ohio State fan, so if you want to read the tea leaves there, that would certainly feel like if you need a little bit of an edge to Ohio State. If you want to read into the decision date and the significance of that date to his family, you may feel free to do so. Again, if Ohio State adds Miles Lockhart this week on top of Bryce West, who they got last month, and then they add Aaron Scott at the end of this month, boy, that is one of the best corner classes in the country. Those are two guys who are considered top 50-ish players, regardless of position in the country, and Lockhart, a very athletic corner who could, maybe he fits in the slot, maybe he fits in outside, but you got 3 really good, solid corners in that class. So that could be a very big deal for Ohio State. Now let's turn the page to August. 5-star safety KJ Bolden. That's a Georgia / Alabama / Ohio State / pretty much anyone else in the country who has offered him a scholarship. That announcement is now coming August 5th. He just set his commitment date. Ohio State considered a very strong contender there. Not necessarily a clear-cut frontrunner, but certainly a very legitimate threat to land five-star safety KJ Bolden. If they do pick up Bolden, that would really solidify the back part of that Ohio State defensive class. With the Buckeyes, we'll get to another couple defensive linemen in a minute, but the Buckeyes really looking pretty solid right now at all three levels of the defense. If some of these anticipated announcements and potential commitments do come through for Ohio State, this could be one of the great Ohio State defensive classes of all time. Still a lot of work to do before you get to that point, and don't want to put the cart before the horse, but this is a Ohio State team that has really, really highly touted prospects, potentially at all three levels of the defense in this class. Long way to go. Don't have the commitments yet. Still have a long way to go till the December when pen meets paper and they actually become official commitments, official signees, but still a very, very promising potential class starting to come together for Ohio State on the defensive side of the ball for 2024. Now let's move on to a little later on in August, and August 22nd. That is when defensive end Edric Houston, he also is from Buford, Georgia, just like KJ Bolden. He also is a five-star defensive commit. He right now is Ohio State considered the favorite to land Edric Houston. He is a bigger defensive end. He could end up sliding inside to play 3-tech for Larry Johnson, depending on how he kind of continues to grow once he gets to Ohio State or wherever his college decision ends up being. But he is definitely someone who would be a big score for Ohio State. You put him next to Justin Scott on the defensive line on one side or the other. That's a pair of 5 stars. That is the kind of defense that that has worked out pretty darn well for Ohio State in the past. You put a couple 5-star defensive linemen together, that really changes the complexion of the defense. And oh yeah, by the way, if you weren't paying attention over the weekend, Ohio State, there was kind of a flood of crystal balls for another 5-star defensive lineman for the Buckeyes over the holiday weekend. That is for 5-star edge, defensive end, however you want to call it, edge rusher, Dylan Stewart. He's a 5-star out of Washington, D.C. Crystal balls coming in from names that would, be significant. And that seems like he's maybe trending towards Ohio State, USC, the one in South Carolina, not Southern California. South Carolina, still a threat there, but Ohio State in seemingly not terrible shape there, not too bad shape with Dylan Stewart. He does not have a decision date set, so even if Ohio State is the leader, you can decide on your own how much that really means and how much that really matters right now, but it was an encouraging sign over the holiday weekend for Ohio State with Dylan Stewart. And now you can start daydreaming a little bit about, okay, is there a class with Justin Scott, who's already committed, Edric Houston, who could commit in August, and Dylan Stewart, who could commit at some point, and then you add another interior defensive lineman, another edge rusher, whatever it is. Boy, that becomes one of potentially the best defensive line classes that Larry Johnson has ever signed, Ohio State has ever signed. Add in the linebackers who they have committed right now and who they could have committed a month from now. Some of the corners they could have committed a month from now. Potentially safety or two they could have committed a month from now. And boy, you're talking about a really, really good class. Potentially the best class in Ohio State history. Potentially the best class in the nation. So in case you're wondering where Ohio State is, obviously there's a lot of commitments still out there that Ohio State's going to be waiting on over the next month and a half. We just talked about a bunch of those. So where are the Buckeyes right now in the rankings? Well, they currently have commitments from 4 players ranked as 5 stars in the 247 composite. Wide receivers Jeremiah Smith and Mylan Graham. Quarterback Aaron Noland, who was recently bumped up to a 5-star. And Justin Scott, who we just talked about there. That is the most of any program in the 247 composite in the class of 2024 right now. Georgia and Alabama both have 3. Buckeyes with 4. The Buckeyes also have the highest average ranking of recruits in the 2024 class at the moment. That is always subject to change. Georgia, Alabama, they're right there with them. But again, if that's the neighborhood you're living in, that is a pretty high-rent neighborhood. And Buckeyes number 2 overall right now in their class rankings, behind only Georgia. The Bulldogs have 5 more commitments at the moment, so that's how they would be ranked ahead of Ohio State, despite having a slightly lower average ranking per player. And just because I know everyone wants to know, what about Michigan? Well, Buckeyes currently 2 spots ahead of Michigan in the 247 composite team rankings, despite Michigan having 8 more commitments right now. Buckeyes significantly higher average player rating than the Wolverines at the moment. It's still July, still a long way to go till December, but things looking up right now for the Buckeyes. Very, very busy week and busy month ahead for the Buckeyes on the recruiting trail as they try and close some of these potential commitments. Guys like Miles Lockhart, we may have some news on Miles Lockhart this week. Kingston Villa Mua also in about 2.5 weeks. Aaron Scott in about 3.5 weeks. And then KJ Bolden about a month, exactly a month, in fact, from today. So lots of news potentially coming soon, and some potentially good news coming soon for Ohio State. And if you want to stay up to date on all of the twists and turns with Ohio State recruiting and national college football recruiting and much more, a great place to do that would be at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Mark Givler and Alex Gleitman keeping very, very busy, even over the holiday week, and keeping everyone up to speed on what's going on with some of these commitments and twists and turns and last-minute changes of heart and all that fun stuff, all the stuff you've come to know and love about college football recruiting. You can track it all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Should be a very, very interesting month. And then as we are shifting from the busy recruiting season over the summer to the college football season, we're now just about 3 weeks away from Big Ten Media Days. 3 weeks from now, we are going to be in Indianapolis covering Big Ten Media Days. Buckeyes will be there on the first day. Michigan will be on there on the second day, and there will be a bunch of other teams there, but those tend to be the ones you guys are most interested in. We will be there for all of it. Talking to Jim Harbaugh, talking to Ryan Day, talking to undoubtedly, they have not announced players yet, but undoubtedly some of the Michigan and Ohio State players you have come to know and love over the previous few years. Lots of always a really good time, chance to learn a lot about all the different teams in the Big Ten, and we'll be there for all of it. So make sure you are subscribed to BuckeyeHuddle.com and get access to all sorts of great insight and analysis on the Huddle board, which is members only there. And of course, we'll have a bunch of those videos posted as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. And finally, we will undoubtedly be doing podcasts about all of this stuff, as you have come to expect. So make sure you're subscribed to all of our podcasts: Buckeye Weekly, Skull Session Podcast, Big Me Kickoff, and of course, Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning. You can just find them all. Just type in Buckeye Huddle wherever you're listening to this. Subscribe to all those, and we would truly appreciate it if you'd leave us a 5-star rating and review as well. That helps other folks find those shows, makes our life a little easier. We don't have to go chasing listeners as much as if you guys give us a little help, and it only takes 30 seconds or so. Leave us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice little review, and give just a nice little thing you can do to help us out and keep us providing you podcasts and YouTube streams and all that fun stuff. So thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.